it's Josia here. So today I want to share another really foundational practice with you called resourcing, right? And so this practice is really, really key to, again, help to kind of expand our ability to, when things get difficult, come back to a place of okay, or at least, safe enough. Things are more neutral, right? And so our brains have evolved over time to track and be more aware of what's wrong or dangerous in our environment, okay? Or sometimes just what stands out, what's different, right? But for survival reasons, our brains have evolved to really track that stuff and to be more aware of what's wrong than what's beautiful and what's amazing, okay? And there's a really good reason for that, because if we're sitting in this like amazing, beautiful field of flowers by a stream, and suddenly there's a tiger approaching us, right? It makes sense for our nervous system, for our physiology to be more focused on the tiger, right, as a potential survival threat than the flowers, right? If we were just like, oh, but these flowers, if like, then is like we'd be in trouble, right? So this does become a problem though when our survival brain assesses something in our environment as being like dangerous and being that we have to go into kind of hyper alert, when it's simply something that's different in our environment or something that we're not used to, or when our minds become like overly focused on something that's maybe unpleasant, like a big bill that we have to pay and we don't really know how we're going to pay, or a relationship difficulty, something that's difficult, right, but something that's not actually dangerous. So many traditional Indigenous people, including the Haudenosaunee people, knew this about our human tendency without even maybe understanding the brain science behind it. They knew this, they'd observed this, right? And so though they might not have understood it from that scientific place, they knew it, and they had some intact like cultural practices to support their people, to kind of counteract that tendency and to support connection in the places where it needed, where it wasn't helpful for people to be noticing the things that were negative or in their environment. Okay, so to support connection, to support health and happiness, and really cultural cohesion, right? They developed these practices. One of the cultural practices developed by the Haudenosaunee people is known as, in English, it's called the Thanksgiving Address, or the words that come before all else. And this practice addresses all the elements of creation with gratitude and thanks. And it's really woven into their culture to practice gratitude in any context where people are gathering and something's about to happen, where there's going to be some talking or some connection, community, to really practice that gratitude in order to support a more connected, kind of grounded place for discussion and perhaps conflict resolution as well, right? So from a neuroscience perspective, when we focus on gratitude, we soothe this lower survival brain, right? And we bring our prefrontal cortex and ventral vagal nervous system online. So the part of our brain that helps us feel connected and able to access this logical, rational thought and decision-making capabilities, right? So this is one example. So gratitude practice is one example and sort of a way, or like a part of how we can resource ourselves. It's a resource, right? And yet there's many other ways as well. And in the somatic world, the subject of resourcing is actually like really huge and in depth, and how we work with it. So we're not going to go into all of that, but let's pull out a few more examples for us to work with. Okay, so some other examples of resourcing could be looking at like what helps you to feel good, or even just what helps you to feel neutral, or to come back to your center, to come back to feeling more grounded when things get difficult, right? And resources can be like they're not necessarily, and especially when we're first starting to do this work, they're not necessarily things that are like 100% good for us. Like it could be resourcing for you to go and eat some ice cream, right? Or to go and like smoke a cigarette. That could be what is resourcing and grounding for you, okay? It could be the thing that regulates your nervous system, right? But those kind of things are sort of more in the category of what we might call like coping mechanisms, right? And they're not necessarily bad because they are serving a purpose to help regulate the nervous system. But we want to start to build out a list or like a kind of database or bank of the things that are like 100% good for us. Okay, so things that aren't like, don't also have a harmful side effect, and things that are just like really deeply nourishing. So it might be something like, and it's going to be different for everybody. Again, as many different people as are watching this video, as many different resources, lists of resources are going to be out there, right? But it might be things like going to the beach, going to the forest, going to a place where you're in nature and you can hear the birds and breathe the fresh air. That could be resourcing. It could be listening to music. It could be even a specific type of music or a specific few songs or a specific song that just like really helps you to come back to yourself. It could be a person, right? It could be somebody in your life that is reliable, and that when you connect with them, you actually make more contact with yourself. You feel yourself in your center. They ground you. They're a nourishing person for you to be around, right? It could be an animal or a plant maybe that you have in your house. It could be your favorite blanket or getting cozy in your bed. It could be your couch. It could be, so you see there's so many different things that it can be, right? And so what I'm going to invite you to do with this practice today is to pause the recording and actually make a list of everything that you can think of that is resourcing for you. So things that help you come back to yourself, come back to grounded, come back to a neutral place, or even a place of feeling good. Could be dancing, could be getting a massage, could be getting a hug, could be maybe dressing up, maybe putting on a favorite piece of clothing. So there's so many different things that it could be. So I'm going to invite you to pause the recording and just brainstorm. And if you're having trouble thinking of anything, if you're kind of in like a stuck-ish feeling place where you're like, I actually cannot think of one damn thing right now that makes me feel better, that probably means you are in a stuck kind of place, and that you want to maybe first go back to one of the other videos, especially video number 1, the basic orienting practice can be really, really helpful just to bring you more into the present moment. The present moment is kind of an infallible resource because hopefully the present moment is safe enough, right? Like even if you're having a difficult situation that's happening in your life, if you can get, sometimes it's like locking the bathroom door and sitting in the bathroom where nobody else is and just like, okay, I'm in the bathroom. It's safe enough, right? There's nothing coming at me, that kind of thing. Noticing colors, noticing textures. So that orienting practice can really serve you if you're struggling with the resourcing practice. Okay? However, if you are feeling ready and game and excited about doing this resourcing practice, then I invite you to now pause the recording and just let yourself brainstorm for, maybe 5 or 10 minutes and just write down everything that you can think of that is resourcing for you. Okay? Okay, great. So now we're going to come back and you have your list in front of you, and I'm going to invite you to choose one thing off of your list. If you're choosing a person or animal or actually anything that you're choosing, I'm going to invite you to get really specific with like a moment in time when you were with that person or in that place or with that experience. Okay, so like imagine yourself actually in that time, and it could be something that actually hasn't happened yet too. It could be something that that you're just pulling right out of your imagination, like maybe you're imagining swimming with the dolphins in Hawaii or something like that, and that hasn't happened yet, but that's something that feels like it would be resourcing for you. So it could be that as well. Right. And so we're going to together now imagine one thing, one experience, and start to even just close your eyes and start to just like actually imagine that you're in that experience. Okay. So imagining that you can smell the smells. What would the air smell like? What would you be hearing? What would the sounds be? What would the lighting be like? Would it be bright? Would it be sunny? Would it be raining? Would it be dark? Would it be, yeah, what would it be like? Would there be water? Would there be wind? And just imagining the sense of touch. Would your feet be in the warm sand, or would you be leaning against a tree trunk? What would that feel like? What would the body be experiencing in terms of touch? Would the warm sun be on your skin? What would it be like? Would you be held in the embrace of someone you love? And just imagining that place, and see how much you can bring it into the senses. Okay? See how much you can actually let yourself feel that experience, feel what that experience is like or would be like for you. Feel it right now. And then just notice what happens in your body. How does the body change? How does the breath change? And just continuing to imagine yourself in that experience for one more minute here. Letting yourself see if you can receive this experience even just 1% more into your cells of your body, into your nervous system. Great. So you can stay with that for as long as you need to. If you want to pause the recording before listening to me talk a little bit more about this and how to carry this forward into your life. And when you're ready, let's think about how you might integrate this. So I'm going to invite you to actually take that list that you brainstormed earlier, and if you have some colored pens or pencils, um, or it could be just with pencil or just with a normal pen, but make it a little bit beautiful. Make it something that you feel like good about posting on your bathroom mirror or your fridge or on your bedroom wall, and put it somewhere, make it beautiful, and then put it somewhere where you're going to see it, where it's going to catch your eye. Because one of the things that tends to happen is when we get into a more challenging place, when we're feeling less resourced, right, or we get kind of spun out, we actually forget, even though we have this amazing list and we know these things, right? We forget that they're there. And so we want to have this as a tool that's posted somewhere that it will remind you, like when you're in that moment where you really need it, there it is. Oh yeah, those are the things, right? So when my son was younger, when he was really little and I was single parenting, I used to have this list of something similar to this. Like when we were having a difficult time together, it said, when things are difficult, try these things. And then it was like a point form of different things that I could do with him, playing with puppets or, just the different things that we would do. So that's sort of a similar thing, right? You want to post this somewhere where you'll have that cue to remember to use it, okay? So play with that. Let me know how it goes. Post any questions or comments you have below, and we'll see you in the next video. Okay, take care.